And with that, I'm going to introduce Johan from Telia, who is, I'm happy to say, our local customer here in Stockholm. You'll find that we're a little dominated by Swedes at this users conference, which is to be expected since we're in Stockholm. But I'm happy to introduce Johan.
Thank you. And for you who are first time in Stockholm, welcome to Stockholm. So, David, a lot of the things that you said is also applicable for Telia. I think we face the same challenges, or many of the same challenges. My presentation is a little bit different than David's, and let's take us through it. So first, just a little bit about myself. The pictures represents my hobbies, so that's what I do when I do not evangelize about automation in Telia. I joined the company in 2002. I have held a dozen different positions. Currently, I'm the Transport Network Chief Architect, and I'm also managing a team with the focus on developing the transport assets, the fixed access assets, but also taking us onto the first steps on our software-defined journey. Our focus is automation beyond service provisioning. We started with service provisioning as a use case, but we are well beyond that in our minds. What is the next level? We are looking into disaggregation of software and hardware, not the topic of this discussion here today, but that is something that we believe in is very much key for us going forward. My team is also driving, or I should say pushing for the virtualization of network functions from a transport domain, talking about provider edge functionality, BNG, route reflection, whatnot. And overall, same point as David raised, drastic simplification of the transport network. We have well over 150 years of legacy, and sometimes that backpack is fairly heavy to carry around. A little bit about Telia for you who are not so acquainted with us. So we founded 1853, so fairly old company. We are listed in Stockholm and Helsinki. We have 500,000 shareholders. We are operating in many different countries. This slide is the official one, so it's on the teliacompany.com. We are divesting in some of this area, especially in the Eurasia. And I think there will be some news soon. We are also I should say, focusing quite a lot on sustainability from a company profiling perspective. So we are members and parts of some of the most recognized organizations. A little bit about the finance, and then a fancy picture of our new head office that is actually, I think it's on the day of 1 year since we moved there. It might be 6th of June or 7th of June, I don't know, but spot on. And we are 21,000 employees across the globe. So we're a fairly large organization, even though we operate locally in many of these countries. So, automation level. So this is now we go back to my home turf. This is where I feel very much confident in what I'm saying and what I'm doing. So what is our ambition level for 2018? We want to be 100% ready in the van for automation. And this goes with service provisioning in mind, but also for backbone capacity, routed network deployment scenarios, and so forth. So we want to model all our devices. All our assets in the network needs to be modeled. And obviously, since I'm here speaking today in front of you, we have used Cisco NSO to do that, to help us with that. On top of that, we will at least model our layer 2, layer 3 VPN services and our internet services. But since we are moving into an overlay type of server discussion with SD-WAN and stuff like that, that is also part of the scope. So anything new that we bring in will be automated from day one. The 150-year-old heavy luggage is what we are focusing on from a layer 2, layer 3 VPN perspective. And we don't see any difference if this is a physical device or if it's a virtual function. For us, it's the same. Of course, if you go virtual with a function, there are other layers of mechanisms that you need to account for. The picture here is a conceptual picture that we use quite a lot internally to educate management and to have a one way of looking at the reality. So just to point out, we have selected Cisco NSO for device management and for WAN orchestration. Not saying that we have limited scope, but that is where we are focusing. That is where my team is putting in the effort. Besides doing all this fancy stuff to make the network ready, we have promised ourselves to do integration roadmaps with our OSS people, the IT side of our house. And since we are operating in many different countries, we have many different networks, there's a lot of stakeholder management. There is basically a local OSS and BSS stack in every OpCo. And that is, of course, challenging for us. It would be super fantastic if we had one OSS layer, one BSS layer across. That's not reality. So we need to interact, and we need to find a time of interception, because all of these local initiatives are in a different time period or readiness or in status of implementing their target systems. We are pushing for NetConf, we are pushing for Young and modeling and all that, so we do have that type of discussion, but when to intercept is the key. We will also use the NSO selectively to replace legacy scripts and manual routines for the network capacity management deployment type of scenarios. And how we are going about this is to empowering our engineers and bringing them together with IT engineers and adopting. I don't like use DevOps because I don't get it, but the mentality of DevOps, actually no ops in some scenarios. We don't want to have any operations in some scenarios, but more importantly, agile, empowering people, give them the freedom to do good stuff. By the way, I'm following René's scripting to the point, so I didn't have much time to prepare, but we are also on the journey towards 2020. On the left side here, you see our reference architecture for networks. It's 4 things that we want to talk internally about. So we want to talk about management and orchestration. People don't get it, but when we want to talk about management and orchestration, we can point to the reference architecture. Then we have two layers, a converged transport, so this is the simplification of the transport layer, and an access domain. Access is radio, it's copper, it's fiber, it's licensed, unlicensed, it's everything. But more importantly, on top of that, going forward, we have created a working term that we call the Service Enablement Factory. And this is where we honestly believe where we will enable all our services going forward. And this is where we put in the mobile packet core. This is where we put in the virtual BNG. This is where we put the virtual CP type of functionality. So this is one digital infrastructure, basically a telco cloud or a variety of telco cloud. So that is our reference architecture. On the right side, you can actually see our network topology. I don't know how good it comes through on the projector, but we have something that you guys are familiar with as a core network. We call it interregional because we want to avoid using core because everybody has core. Mobile core, IP core, DWDM core, unified communication core. So we from a transport perspective in Telia, we don't talk about core anymore. It's interregional, connecting the regional networks, which you might refer to as metro networks. We call them regional networks, and then we have an aggregation piece to the left. And access networks as such. All of these parts of the network is targeted for being modeled from a device perspective and from a service perspective in the Telia's NSO product. On top of that, we also have some software-defined SDN control architecture. We are not that far into that space yet, but there is an element of disaggregation of hardware and software that is very appealing, at least from an architecture perspective. So where did we start? We had a few problems to solve, probably many more problems than I've listed here, but we have fairly low automation across the OpCos. Sometimes we do have automation, but it's hard-coded things. So if you want to change anything in that process, you need the people to go in and actually adapt the code. Across all opcos, we could identify the same type of vendor and service complexity. So we were actually redoing the same type of validation, testing, integration across all opcos. So instead of doing it once, we did it 6-7 times. Quite a lot of inefficiency there. Then we have an interesting piece here. We have the opcos responsible for the sales and rollout and building networks. But in group, where I'm representing in the group, we actually have the service development. So we need to develop the same service. Instead of doing it once, we do it 6 to 7 times, which has created a lot of inefficiency for us. And we constantly complain that we don't have the resources to do what business wants us to do. So we really needed to find a way around that. We suffered from severe lead times to go to market. And I hope there are not too many IT people from Telia here, but in all honesty, there's no one in Telia that can say anything else. It's due to IT. And it's not due to that IT is not doing a good job, but they have a lot of legacy to manage. At the same time, they're doing a transformation, removing 15 old inventory systems, replacing it with one new. So in all fairness, but we have a problem to solve. And then going back, we have a lot of incidents caused by people. And this is not because we have, I should say, not too skilled network engineers. I think we have fantastic network engineers, but when you do things manually, when you do copy-pasting, errors will occur. So how did we went about this? Well, we wanted to be opportunistic. There is very little chance of succeeding to bring a big program within our company. So we needed to find use cases and be opportunistic to find the easy wins. If we started in the right by going into service delivery, I don't know. That might have been a too wide area to attack as an easy win, but still the potential in Telia for automating the service provisioning is huge. We wanted to abstract all services from the devices, so create as much independency between the actual physical or virtual function from the service that we provide to the upper layers and to our customers. And for this, we selected Cisco NSO. We went to, we attacked this by looking from an API perspective. So for us, the service catalog is not something that people read. Service catalog is made for machines to read. And that is where we try to influence our organization and where we put a lot of efforts into. It has to be API driven. The integration between the different layers has to be through machine. And for this, we develop once and we deploy many. That is our ID from a service and network perspective. And most important, I would say, liaison with commercial. I think for you who has been with me on this journey since 2014, 13, 14, lesson learned to us, we should have liaison with commercial much, much earlier. Because if you unleash the power of automation in front of these people, you get funding, you get mandate to do things. Because these are the guys that meet the customers, and the customers, they don't even accept that we do things manually today, to be honest. They get scared when we go out in front of customers saying we do this manually. So liaison with commercial is a very good tip here. Some challenges. So network is advancing very fast. I think we have virtualized only last year 19 different functions, and it's happening. We launched SD-WAN services in Finland this Q1 this year. So things are happening from a service and network perspective. IT have a lot of legacy. I obviously cannot tell all our problems, but there is a lot of challenges just taking old systems, transforming them into a modern system. And our whole business relies on this. So it doesn't really matter how quick we are in network, but I'm making a point of, even though the tempo is not in harmony, we don't miss the opportunity, because what we are doing now in network is required whenever we are ready from an end-to-end perspective. So we are laying the foundation by abstracting our services from our network devices and creating API-driven integration. When we started, or when I started and a former colleague started this, we talk about something, network abstraction layer. When we first addressed this towards IT in 2013, we couldn't understand each other. I think we had like 2-hour meeting, we didn't understand anything, they didn't understand anything, and then we didn't talk to each other for 1.5 years. But we still don't talk the same language, but now there are so much things happening in TM forum, there are things happening in open source communities and other communities around us that brings us together. So we are actually starting to understand each other, even though I will never be a TM forum guy. If I could change 2 things in our approach, one would be to liaison with commercial at early stage, and the second would be to get a top-down approach. We did this on our own from my team, together with a couple of more people for 2 years. So the start is very slow doing this bottom-up. We still don't have the ambition on a funding perspective. We still have the strategy very much aligned with Telstra, but we lack the element of the investment desire. And that's where we are now catching up. Bringing clever people together, I think that's key. Commercial, IT, and networks need to work together and be opportunistic. Find the things, do them, take the quick wins, and continue. Don't drive large, big programs, projects, several months, or even worst case, several years. I've seen such projects as well. Be opportunistic, deliver value to business. And to end that discussion, be realistic. I think I have an opportunity as an architect to ignore some of the well-known problems in an old telco. But when it comes to project and implementation, be sure to be realistic. There is always a firewall somewhere that will hinder you. And that firewall might be a person, or it might actually be 15 firewalls in a network. A little bit about how we are trying to reshape our minds. I mean, I think Telia has a couple of the most or the best network engineers in the world doing what they are supposed to do. They are super fantastic. We need to give them a bit more skill sets when it goes into the future. Our minds are focusing on the software side. The hardware will be something that Cisco and others will provide. Fine. By simplification of transport networks, harmonizing services, abstracting services from the complex hardware, and going into a programmability mode. So we need software skills in our network department. So far, we have done most of the work in-house. I'm sure some Cisco guys will claim merit for some of the good stuff as well, but we have a team. So in David's presentation, initial team, first team, we have that, building the foundation. We are hiring, so if anyone is interested, please contact me or our HR. From a network or from a technology perspective in Telia, automation, virtualization, and programming has been and is recognized as a core competence for networks going forward, which is good. It took some effort to get there, but people finally realized if we want to deliver on the values that we promised to our customers and not to our owners, we need to have this competence. We cannot just rely on others. And we have a good relationship with Cisco. Another pro tip, involve them early and be very transparent. The more they know, the more they can help you. And so far, we are in the starting point, but we have several NSO instances deployed across our opcos. We have a couple of services modeled. And with that, a lot of the devices are also model, of course. We have an established network automation team. I think Miguel might be here. Yeah, Miguel is there. He's currently heading up that team. If you want to have a chat with him about reality. We have also passed, and I passed the security audits. I think for anyone with a history in Telia, and maybe this is also applicable for many other operators, but we actually managed to get through our security people with this product, which was an achievement by itself. And we have NSO in early production state. You can come and talk to me off camera, and I can be more open about exactly what services and where we have deployed those so far. So that was my presentation.